Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 9th installment of the Book Club with Jared podcast. After a relatively seemingly long break of about 3 weeks, I am back once again to serenade you with the joys of reading and my lovely voice, as I've been told. So, I do apologize for being gone so long. I've been busy these past few weeks with things like work, and I had some other personal things to attend to, and so I just haven't had a whole lot of time to record one of these. But the break stops today, and I am back once more. For today's theme, I'm going to do grape juice. Now, this is sort of a hot topic, a big debate, if you will. I think that grape juice is one of the top 3 juices out there, second only to apple juice, and then followed by lemonade. And I don't even care what anybody has to say. I consider lemonade to be a juice, okay? Apple juice is perfect, and grape juice is just great. And I'm talking about the red grape juice, like not the white grape juice. The white grape juice is still good, but I still prefer the black one. But that's just me. Okay, so as always, I'm going to be taking periodic sips from my cup of juice right here. Hold on a second. So, last episode, we read chapters 11 through 14, excuse me. So today we're going to be reading starting at chapter 15 until I feel like stopping. And you'll remember through last time, in our book, the main character, Titus, she met up with a few people in her search for the blue flags in base camp. And she's now traveling with this group. There are, I think, 6 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, there's 5 of them. And when we left off, all the Pandoras were sort of in a fight with a bear. And at the end of chapter 14, we realized that crazy guy's there. The guy with the lion, because he was yelling at somebody from behind the clearing where everybody currently is. And the guy he's wrestling with is, well, I think we're obviously going to find out his name in chapter 15. And he is the main protagonist in this book. So, it's kind of a twist in the second book. So you'll see how it goes. But I think you're going to like this part here. I think we'll read... I think we'll read about four chapters. So we'll read until chapter 19. If I'm feeling generous, I'll read through chapter 20 just to end on an even number. Okay? Okay. Excuse me. So, chapters 1 through 14 covered 106 pages. So we're on page 107. We're moving through this thing pretty quick, guys. So, all right. So, without further ado, I'm going to begin. Chapter 15. Green Beret is holding another guy in front of him, or rather, he's holding his head. And he's holding it in a way that makes me think he could seriously hurt him with a simple movement. The grizzly bear has stopped attacking and is staring at the guy in front of Green Beret. "Say it," the Green Beret repeats, and his voice raises goosebumps on my arms. There's no way in hell I'd think about going up against that guy. The guy in the headlock apparently agrees because he opens his mouth and says, "AK-7, stand down." The bear sits on its haunches as if that's exactly what it wanted to do the entire time. It begins licking its wounds as Green Beret shoves the guy in front of him. Scurrying over to the bear, the guy inspects it closely. "I had no idea," the guy says. "He got away from me somehow." The guy has blonde, chin-length hair and sun-kissed skin. He looks older than me, but younger than Green Beret. Like my own, his brown scrubs are battered and torn, but that's not what has my attention. It's the blue flag wrapped around his bicep. Even as Maddox resumes his fox form and allows me to baby him, I can't stop staring at it. He's yours? Harper asks the guy with the flag. She raises her chin, and I envy the way that she can immediately regain control. I, on the other hand, feel like I'm going to pass out. Yeah, he is. The guy straightens and moves toward Harper, his hand outstretched. Pass, she says, eyeing his muddied palm. As he stands near Harper, I notice that he's almost as wide as he is tall, built like a wrestler. Did you sick your Pandora on us? Why would I do that? The contender asks, a hint of a smile on his lips. He brushes off his hands and looks at each of us, waiting for someone to come to his defense. No one does. You do that so there's less contenders to compete against, Green Beret growls. I glance at him and notice that he's staring at me, even though he's speaking to the new guy. That's insane, the guy says, shaking his head like we're idiots. Who would do that? Harper grabs his beefed up arm and eyes the flag. Where did you get this? The guy beams at her, and the sight makes me squirm. There's something not quite right about him. My name's Titus, thanks for asking. Duly noted. Flag? Harper pushes. Titus seems to calculate his options as I try to fathom why Green Beret is staring at me. His dark hair is still spiked, and I wonder where he's getting his gel. I try not to notice the way that his cold blue eyes study my face, but it's hard to ignore. Swallowing my fear, I turn and meet his eyes. I smile. He doesn't. I can show you, I hear Titus telling Harper. Then do it. Harper nods to us like the matter is settled. We'll follow Titus, who may or may not have tried to kill us, to locate where he found the flag. Are you coming with us? I ask Green Beret. My voice is barely a whisper. I have this strange half fear, half fascination going on with this guy. Like I'm not sure whether I want to watch the sunset together or sleep with one eye open. Green Beret's face pulls together. I realize it then. He hates me. And not in the way which I find out later that he actually liked me the whole time. Okay. I think it's clear that he wants no part in this travel entourage. But then as I'm turning toward Harper, I hear him speak. Yes. I turn around. Yes? Yes, you're coming with us? He yanks on his left earlobe, the mangled one, and walks by me, nearly bumping my shoulder as he passes. My name's Tella, I say to his back. He stops for 1 second, then keeps walking. Harper turns to face him. Who are you? Guy Chambers, he answers. What the hell? Why doesn't he hate Harper? I look her up and down. Oh, right. Harper glances at his lion and then back at him, at his broad shoulders and towering height. I'm imagining she's noticing the way his eyes don't dart, but lock on their subject. Okay, she says. Welcome. We're following Titus here to see where he found his flag. Guy reveals his own flag and balls it in his fist. Where? Harper asks. She seems to know better than to grab him. At the start of the race, about 2 miles northwest of here. His voice is deep and steady, like he's never been unsure of anything in his whole entire life. RX-13, Harper yells. I wince as the eagle makes a new mark on Harper's stomach northwest of the one the twins found. Guy nods his approval. They're a good match, the two nutcases. Harper presses her palm to the ground, to the wound. Let's move. And just like that, we forget about nearly getting killed, about how minutes before our Pandoras were fighting for our safety. The grizzly bears near the front by Titus's side. The other Pandoras eye the bear as they move. But for the most part, they stay near their contenders and remain calm. Maddox bounces around near my ankle, biting at my bootlaces. Shaking my head at him, I try to hide I try to hide my glowing admiration. Wow. You could have told me that you were a total badass. I imagine him shrugging. Yeah, I know. You're not the talkative type. Clenching my hands together is the only way I can keep myself from trying to pick him up every 5 seconds. I'm just so happy to call him mine. I walk near the back and watch Guy move through the jungle. He's in front of me, and Caroline, and Dink, and Harper. And the twins are sandwiched between Guy and Titus. For several minutes, we walk in silence. Then Guy turns and faces me. He holds a finger to his lips and points at my feet. He's insinuating I walk like an ogre, heavy and loud. What? I cock a hand on my hip when I say it, because it's honestly kind of belittling. Sorry, I don't slither like a snake. He looks me over first, a moment too long. The others continue walking, oblivious that Guy is staring me down, running his eyes over my face. My neck. Pick your legs up higher, he says before returning to the hike. I glare at the back of his head, but decide that I'll try the whole picking up my legs thing. It causes my thighs to burn, and at first I'm certain the only thing it's doing is making me work harder. But then I realize I'm not stumbling anymore, and yeah, I guess I sound a little less like a bulldozer. At one point, Ransom jogs over to hang out with me. Going to puke again? I see Guy tilt his head and realize he's listening. My face burns. No, I think I'm wretch-free, I answer. Ransom nods toward Maddox. Dude, he says. I smile. Dude, did you have any idea? I pretend to brush the front of my shirt so Ransom doesn't see how guilty I look. It's not like I knew exactly what Maddox was capable of, but then again, I certainly hadn't imagined to what happened with his glowing eyes last night. Sorta. Ransom grins. Way to play the underdog. I wasn't, I start to say, but Ransom is already jogging toward his brother. Let us know if you need to Ralph, he says. We'll make a pit stop. I'm mortified, though I don't know why. Who cares if the two guys know I got sick? After what feels like another half hour, Titus points in front of him and says something. I'm too far back to hear, but I see the pole and connect the dots. We found it. Again, we stand in a circle and stare up at the flagstaff. I half expect us to take hands and sing Kumbaya while swinging side to side. We don't. But Harper does practice the art of self-mutilation via eagle talon for the third time today. The third small gash along her stomach indicates his flag. This flag is southeast of the one that the twins found, and the one that the twins found is southeast of the flag Guy found. The three marks make a diagonal line starting at the bottom left of her stomach and continuing to the top right. It's a pattern, you think? Levi asks. We have nothing better to go on, Harper says. She looks at Guy, and I wonder when he suddenly became her collaborator. He nods and then pitches his head to the east. Yeah, she says. Let's head east for a while. We'll camp there for the night, then head south later. I agree, but secretly resent that I'm not the one giving orders. 4 days ago, when it was my first day in the jungle, I would have loved for someone to take charge. Now I feel like an itch to be a part of the decision-making. I'm not sure we're headed exactly east. Who could tell? We more just hang left and start walking. At some point, the rain finally relents. The brown scrubs cling to my body as we move, and my boots are heavy. I run a hand over my head and figure that with my short hair matted against my scalp, I probably look less like a girl and more like an emaciated prepubescent boy. Hot. Though we're all dragging our feet through the mud and probably driving Guy crazy, we're making good progress. Walking in a group helps. No one wants to be the person to slow the rest down. At some point, I tire of being at the back of the pack, so I quicken my steps, passing Guy and fighting the urge to stick my tongue out at him, then catch up with Ransom and Levi. The first thing I notice is that Ransom is holding his left hand with his right. Are you okay? I ask. Ransom drops his hand and presses it against his side. Yeah, it's nothing. I circle him and grab his arm. There are a dozen dots of blood springing up across his palm. What happened? Harper pauses and motions for the rest of us to stop. She trudges over and inspects Ransom's hand. Does it hurt? No, he answers, though he says it through his teeth and is obviously lying. Below us, Ransom's Pandora is going crazy, circling his feet and reaching up like it wants to say something. I grabbed a hold of a vine to keep from slipping in the mud. He shakes his head. It was covered in spikes. Guy appears and takes Ransom's hand from me. He rubs his thumb over the puncture wounds. Then he glances around like he's searching for something. You need to disinfect the area. There's a plant that can help. I'll keep an eye out for it as we walk. He nods to Harper. Let's keep moving, she says. Titus, who joins our huddle, tilts his chin in her direction. His eyes keep shifting toward the jungle as if standing still is physically painful. Wait, I tell Harper, though I'm watching Titus. We need to do something for him. He's in pain. It's okay, Ransom says. No, she's right. Levi studies his brother's face. He's hurting. Ransom tears his hand away from Guy. I'm going to keep walking. The rest of you can stand here and discuss whether I feel up to it or not. Ransom turns and walks in the direction we've been heading. He doesn't want to see the weak. He doesn't want to be the weak link, and I don't blame him. Levi shakes his head and follows after his brother. Before he gets too far away, I hear him mutter, "Damn this race." I couldn't agree more. When the sun begins to set, Harper indicates that we should stop and set up camp. The The twins plunge into the jungle to look for moss and twigs and things to help start a fire. When they return, they hand what they found to Dink. I have no idea what this 8-year-old is going to do with this stuff, but he begins rubbing the bark between his hands in surprising confidence. Guy walks over to Dink and nods and looks him up and down. Then he reaches his hand out. It's okay, M4 can handle it. I really want to see what Dink was about to do, but the boy just hands the bundle to Guy and watches him set it on the ground. Guy waves M4 over and the lion breathes fire on the twigs and moss, lightly at first until they're dry, then harder to make them catch. Harper grins, watching the lion's skill. Very nice, she says. He'll be a good asset to our team. Guy doesn't acknowledge her, and I'm kind of glad. There's a part of me that doesn't want her to consider us tools in this race. I just want for these people to be my friends. Watching the fire grow, I silently kick myself. I can't afford to think this way. I have to remember my brother. I have to be more like Harper. That's the end of chapter 15. End of chapter 15, wherein we have once again began to trek through the jungle looking for more flags. And they found a pole where Titus found his flag, so they decided to head east. And that's what they're doing at the moment. Nothing really important is happening yet, but so we'll start in chapter 16. All right, take a juice break. I'd like to point out that although unfortunate, this episode is not sponsored in any way by Welch's. Hint, hint. Sponsor me, Welch's. Okay, chapter 16. As we sit around the fire, Titus tries to make conversation. He jokes about how unpredictable pandoras can be, but no one humors him besides Caroline. Next to him, his bear shifts and then disappears into the jungle night. I don't like his Pandora being out of sight or how easily Titus lets him venture off without saying anything. Grabbing a dead leaf, I try to entertain Maddox. He jumps after it a few times as I swish it back and forth, but then he collapses and closes his eyes. I smile to myself and stroke his fur. My fox has had a big day. He was pretty impressive. Titus's voice makes me flinch. The way he changed shape. I look at him for a long time while I pet Maddox. How do you know he changed shape? Titus grins so that I can see every tooth in his mouth. He was a lion when I got there. Glancing around, I notice that everybody is watching him speak. I wonder why he's still with us. We already found his flag location. I wait for Harper to say something, but she doesn't. Where's your Pandora? I ask him. Titus shrugs like he couldn't care less. Probably went hunting. As if on cue, the bear peeks out from the bush. He studies his contender for a long moment, then saunters over to sit beside him. All along his great shoulders are strange lash marks. I wonder if he got them from the fight or from something else. My curiosity over his injuries is severed when I see what's between the bear's jaws. I gasp with surprise. The rabbit struggles against the bear, and I can already see blood dripping from his back legs. AK-7 opens his mouth and drops the rabbit to the ground. The creature immediately tries to run, but the bear pins it down. Then he drags a single claw lightly along its prey. He does it over and over again as the rabbit squeals. The animal's entrails begin to bulge from its belly, but still the bear torments it, and still the rabbit screams. Stop him, he's torturing it, I tell Titus, but the other contenders shake their heads and mumble their own protests. Why? He asks, laughing. He has to eat. Titus watches with fascination as the bear places a giant paw over the rabbit and presses down. I jump to my feet and rush toward AK-7, but it's too late. The rabbit's skull cracks with an audible snap. Oh God, I turn away and feel tears running down my cheeks. When I glance back, the bear is ripping the rabbit's leg off and shoving it into his mouth. Red flashes before my eyes. What's wrong with it? I rub my tears away. What is wrong with you? Titus holds his hand up, but I don't miss the smirk on his bronzed face. Calm down. This is a Pandora, not a teddy bear. I storm toward him, but two strong hands grab a hold of me. Tella. Warm breath tickles my neck. Go sit down. Craning my head, I see Guy standing behind me. I feel his fingers burning against my skin. You go sit down. I glare at the other contenders and finally, Levi speaks up. Seriously, man, he says, why don't you ask it to eat that somewhere else? Titus tucks his blonde hair behind his ears. I don't understand what the big deal is. Guy lets go of me and steps toward him. If you want to travel with us, the bear eats somewhere else. Exactly, Harper says, nodding. Titus holds his hand up, surrendering. Fine. AK-7, eat that away from here. The bear looks at him for a moment, then gets up and leaves, rabbit carcass dangling from his jaws. Guy faces Titus for another moment before turning to me. His eyes search my face, digging for something. You can sit down. What's in your hand? Caroline asks. I glance at her and notice she's directing the question at Guy. That's when I notice the 2 snakes he's holding. I stumble backward and land hard on the ground. He watches me bust it, and then picks up a long twig from the fire and drives it through the snakes. Dinner, he says finally. They aren't venomous. I usually make RX-13 hunt, Harper says, and I'm surprised to find even she appears uncomfortable. But I guess I could give her the night off. Harper waves a hand at the eagle. Go hunt for yourself. Levi and Ransom do the same for their pandoras, though Ransom's is slow to leave. The raccoon seems upset by something, but I can't tell what that might be. Before long, the 3 animals vanish into the jungle. I should send Maddox after them. He should learn to get along with the other pandoras, but I can't help wanting him close. My stomach turns as Guy cooks the cleaned snakes, then hands each contender a piece. When he offers Titus a helping, Titus says, Is that all I'm supposed to eat? In response, Guy tosses the piece of charred snake into the dirt at his feet. Overeating will make you sleep too heavy. We take shifts, Harper breaks in. We can sleep heavy if we need to. Guy looks at her and then tilts his chin toward the snake, saying she can have more if she wants it. I decide to follow Guy's lead and eat only what he gives me. There's an uncomfortable silence as we chew the tough and bony meat. I gag 4 times, but somehow manage to get the meal down. For some reason, the only thing I can think of while I'm swallowing a hunk of snake is that I'm some type of person to have purple, pink, and red feather boas draped over my dresser mirror at home. Everyone watches Titus as he shoves the charred meat into his mouth and chews. I don't like the way his eyes flick over my body as he eats, or the way he eyes Harper as if she tends to the fire. Caroline senses the need to break the awkwardness. We did well today, huh? I smile in her direction. Her eyes are a soft gray, and they tell me everything I need to know. She is kind of giving, and she will not win this race. Harper hands Dink a stick from the fire, and the boy uses it to draw bunnies in the dirt. We did do well, Harper says to Caroline, returning to her seat. We'll do even better tomorrow. I want to ask how she can be sure, but then I realize that she can't be. It's just what leaders say to inspire the troops. Harper twists her long blonde hair into a bun and spears it with a thin twig. Her green eyes dance in the firelight, and I wonder what she's like when she's at home. Whose child she is. What her room looks like. I wonder if we went to the same high school, if we'd be friends. Or if we'd ignore each other. Too different to connect outside of this race. I'll tell you one thing. I bet having a friend like Harper would have made life at Ridgeline High a lot more exciting. Do you think we'll... Caroline starts to say. Guys, Levi interrupts. Look at this. We all look at his open hand. He's holding a white earpiece. The red light is blinking. No one says anything for a long moment. Then everyone fumbles into their pockets or bags for their own devices. When we've each retrieved them, we hold them out on display. They still work, even after all that rain. I breathe a sigh of relief, then wonder what this should actually worry. I breathe a sigh of relief, then wonder whether this should actually worry me rather than provide peace of mind. 7 lights blink, creating a circle of red flashes around the fire. I count the devices. There are too few, I realize. Dink starts to cry softly. It's okay. It's fine. Caroline pulls him into a hug. We'll tell you what it says. What? Did you lose your device? Titus asks Dink, laughing. Though I'd also like to know, I want to slap him for asking. Dink cries harder, and Caroline gives Titus a look that's supposed to shut him up. And where are your pandoras? Titus asks, looking back and forth between Caroline and Dink. They didn't make it, she says, for them both. And Dink did lose his device, but it was an accident. Titus tilts his head and presses his lips together, like he's being sympathetic. It's not your fault. This race isn't cut out for certain people. Caroline's face reddens. She jabs a finger in his direction. Listen, kid. Guys. Levi lifts his hand and refers to the device. Can we listen to the message now, please? Titus shrugs like he doesn't care, and everyone starts to put their devices into place. But me. I can't stop watching Caroline glare at Titus. Maybe I underestimated her. Each of us has a reason to go back home, to fight through this jungle. Caroline has one too, I'm sure. But she also has a reason for sitting right next to her. I feel someone staring me and glance over to find Guy studying me. I make a what face. He points to his ear as if to say that I'm lagging behind. I roll my eyes and shove it into place. As soon as I do, a wave of anxiety rolls over my shoulders. Harper gives us a thumbs up. Everyone besides Dink touches the red blinking lights. The clicking and static noises begin, and I feel my body tighten with anticipation. I know that across the jungle and here in front of me, other contenders are probably hearing the same message, but for some reason, it's as if the woman is speaking directly to me. If you've been keeping count, you'll realize this evening concludes day 5 of the race. You have until noon on the 14th day to arrive at base camp. Therefore, you have approximately 9 more days remaining to reach your destination. My skin crawls thinking about spending another 9 days in this place. I don't know how I will do it. As I look around the campsite, I understand now more than ever that I may not have a prayer before I meet these people. We are so very proud that such a diverse group of contenders this year. It will make an exciting race. The woman pauses and I hear paper rustling. You may be interested to know that exactly 122 people entered the Brimstone Bleed. 122 people? I think back to the first day at the starting line, to all the nameless faces. I wish I knew them. I wish I knew where they were now. A new thought occurs to me. If we had all decided to race as a team and demanded to share the winning prize, could these people have created enough of a cure for everyone? The woman shuffles more papers. There are currently 114 contenders competing in the Brimstone Bleed. That's the end of chapter 16. It's quite a cliffhanger, isn't it? They started with 122. Now there's 114. So 8 people have died. That's eerie. Imagine that. You're stuck in the middle of a jungle. This device in your ear says, hey, over the past 5 days, 8 people have died in this jungle. Sorry, good luck. So, that pretty much sums up what we just read. Still walking. And Titus's character is sort of developing. He's a snobby sort of, I wouldn't say he's a know-it-all, but he's a man's man who has everything figured out and sort of carefree and lackadaisical, and he doesn't care about anybody but himself. He's kind of a selfish guy. So that's what we just read. It's a pretty quick chapter. It was only about 5 pages. So here's chapter 17. The contenders around me remove their devices, but I stay still, waiting for an explanation. Why are there fewer contenders now than there were 5 days ago? You know the answer, my mind whispers. The device suddenly feels too large. It's going to grow until it splits my ear wide open. I snatch it out and throw it to the ground. What happened to them? I yell to no one in particular. Where are the other contenders? Titus chuckles. Seriously? My head turns in his direction. Yeah, seriously. Spell it out for me. Okay, they're dead. He slides his hand across his throat. Jungle meat. Real nice, Harper says, looking disgusted. Yeah, you know what? Why don't you just take a walk, Levi adds. You gonna make me? Titus asks, laughing. Yes, we might, Ransom says, next to his brother. Please, Titus snorts. I'll whip you both and wipe my butt while I'm at it. Guy stands up. Titus sizes him up for a long moment, then opens his arm out wide. I don't know why everyone's jumping on me anyway. The girl asks a question. And you answered it, Guy says. He nods his head toward the jungle. Go blow off some steam. Titus's mouth quirks on one side like everything's a big joke. I'll go, but I'll be back. Before he leaves, his eyes land on me. He searches my face and then looks down at my lap where Maddox is sleeping. Titus narrows his eyes. I clutch Maddox closer, and Titus laughs. See you later, compadres. After Titus disappears, Guy turns around. He doesn't look at me. Instead, his eyes on the same thing Titus did. Maddox. They want him, I suddenly realize. It's why they're both traveling with us. The thought makes my stomach turn. For a minute there, I figured they wanted the same thing I did during this race, the comfort of companionship. But they only want what will help them win. Is that so terrible, I wonder, that they want to save the life of someone they love? The things I'm thinking feel too big for my head to hold, like they need somewhere to go. I'm here for my brother, I blurt out. Guy's eyes flick from Maddox to me. His face stays hard and unreadable, but he sits down. I imagine it's the best invitation that I'll get from him. He's 19 years old, only 3 years older than me. When I glance around, I notice Harper is looking at me with a strange expression. Envy, maybe. He likes these glossy comic books about aliens. I say it with a question, because I'm not sure how everyone is taking my vermil vomit. But no one stops me from continuing, and he still has these action figures that my grandma gave him. They're from a fast food joint by our old house, which means they're worthless, you know? But he keeps them anyway. I pull in a long breath. He likes vanilla pudding, but only if it's really cold. And he has about 30 different colognes that are half used. I have no idea where I'm going with this, but once I've started talking about him, I can't stop. A million fun facts about Cody Holloway fill my brain, itching to be released into the jungle. I open my mouth to continue, but Ransom jumps in. We're here for our sister, he says, and Levi nods. She's a year younger than us. Mom says she got lucky with Levi and me, that she had to keep going while her luck was hot. Levi laughs like he remembers his mother saying this. I'm so happy Ransom is sharing his own story that I can hardly breathe. Joyce, our sister, Ransom continues, has this boyfriend that we give such a hard time, but I guess he's all right, really. She texts him so much that we joke that and say that she has an addiction. So now my dad has been researching texting rehabilitation clinics. Seriously, they have those. Ransom gives us all a look so that we know just how serious he is. Anyway, she's obsessed with her boyfriend and mood rings and these dumb little mint cases that you can only buy online. Levi nudges Ransom like he's forgetting something. Ransom shakes his head like he doesn't understand, but then Levi rolls his eyes. Ransom laughs. Oh, I guess she likes us all right too. For some reason, we all look at Caroline. She seems like the next most receptive person in this little share and tell thing that we have going on. Oh, my turn? She asks, placing a hand to her chest. Spill it, Levi says. Okay, well, Caroline adjusts herself on the ground, crossing her legs tighter. I guess I'm here for my mom. I am here for my mom. She just turned 35. We had a birthday party for her before we left. My son and I made this cake, but she refused to eat any. Caroline shakes her head. My mother used to be in the movies. Not like those big budget films, just some of the ones that go straight to DVD. But that doesn't stop her from acting like the biggest big budget actress, right down to the no carb, no sugar diet. She laughs to herself and rubs the back of her neck. My mom carries around these markers in her purse just in case someone asks for an autograph. And then when nobody does, she'll just sign something anyway, a napkin or a ticket stub or whatever, and hand it to them with this smile. The smile that says that she is somebody. Dink tongue tugs on Caroline's sleeve, and she wraps her arm around him. I never really knew my mom that well, but she says that if I win, she'll spend the rest of her life being friends with her daughter. The first thing I think of is that her mother is lying, that she's saying whatever she needs to motivate Caroline to win. The second I think is, how does your mom know about the race? Caroline glances at me, because her uncle was a contender. I feel like somebody has kidney punched me. So she knew. She knew about the brimstone bleed. Did she know that you'd be invited to become a contender? Does she know about the cure? I know I'm grilling her with questions too quickly, but I can't help myself. I'm dying for more information on how this happened to us. No, she shakes her head. She just knew the stories about her uncle. She only told me about them after the blue box, or the device, appeared on my windowsill. Mom says that she would have told me sooner if she thought there was any truth to his stories, but I'm not sure she would have. It seemed like she was too nervous to tell me what little she did know. So what did she tell you exactly? Only that he competed in something called the Brimstone Bleed to save his wife's life. She looks at Dink before adding, she left after the second leg of the race. I want to ask why her uncle gave up, but I don't want to pry in case it's a reason that she doesn't want to share. Instead, I ask, did she say anything else? Like what to expect or how all this started? Caroline thinks for a moment and then shrugs with one slender shoulder. That's all she really told me. That her uncle entered and that he didn't win. Her eyelids flutter. Maybe she didn't want to scare me. Glancing around, I notice that Harper and the twins are just as eager for information. Guy, however, looks like he knows something. Guy, do you know anything else? He looks slowly from Caroline to me, then he shakes his head, but I can see it all over his face. He's lying. Harper interrupts my train of thought and speaks to Caroline. Are you sure that's all your mom told you? Caroline nods. I'm sure. So this race has happened before, Harper states. Ransom crosses his arms. This is so messed up. I wholeheartedly agree. Somewhere out there is a person or a group of people running this thing. How can they do this to us? How can they play with our emotions and our lives this way? I look up at the people sitting there with me. We're not so different. We're all here out of selflessness, here to save somebody's life. Glancing at Dink, I wonder who he's here for. Titus is a prick. Anyway, Titus is right. This race isn't for children. Dink, I say softly, who are you trying to save? The boy's head snaps up. He looks at me with his big brown eyes. Somehow, though, I hate my own curly hair on him. I find it adorable. It makes him appear even more innocent, so I can't bring myself to push when he just shakes his head. That's okay, Harper says. You don't have to tell us if you don't want to. When I look at Harper, she makes eye contact with me for a second, then glances down. It's obvious she won't be sharing a story tonight either. Everyone looks at Guy. He pulls in a long breath. No. We all stare at him, thinking he may say something else. He doesn't. The silence among our small campsite is ruptured when the raccoon and ram return. Behind them are Titus and AK-7. I cringe, thinking that Titus is going to pick right back up where he left off. That he's going to confront Guy, but he just sits down and leans back, like he couldn't care less that we're here. His grizzly bear shakes it like a wet dog, then lies down beside him, muzzle still coated in blood. DN-99 runs circles around Ransom, and again I wonder what's going on with this supersized raccoon. Finally, Ransom pays attention to him. What, he says, what on God's green earth are you so wound up about? When Ransom reaches out to stop his Pandora from racing in circles, a raccoon leaps onto his left hand and pins it down. What are you doing? Ransom says. He tries to jerk his hand back, but before he can, the raccoon begins licking his puncture wounds. Ransom's eyes slip closed, and he groans with pleasure. Then his eyes snap open. Wow, that was embarrassing, he laughs. It feels really good. Levi leans forward and looks at his brother with disgust. All right, man, can you stop with the animal porn? Get him off your hand. No, Ransom says, shaking his head. I can't. Dude, Levi yells. He grabs his brother's left hand and yanks it away from the raccoon. Then he narrows his eyes. Ransom pulls his hand away from his brother and inspects his palm. The wounds, he says quietly, they're healing. We all rush over to see it happening. The small round holes squeezing closed. I feel like I'm imagining, and wonder if the snake was venomous after all. Then when the wounds have completely healed, we all take turns pressing on his palm to make sure it's real. Then we stare at the raccoon. So that's why I'd been acting strange all afternoon. Then again, what is strange for a Pandora? Glancing up, I notice that Titus is licking his lips. Harper notices him ogling too. She makes a face like she's uncertain of what to do next. Finally, she says, so the Pandoras haven't shown us their full capabilities yet. Maybe they aren't even aware of them themselves, Caroline muses. Ransom turns his head over several times in front of his face, while the rest of us pull away and try to relax on the ground. Even though it feels like something that's truly mind-bending has just taken place, we settle down to sleep. It's the only thing that we can do for now. Dink yawns, and Harper stretches out onto her back, gazing up into the canopy. Ransom, how about you and your brother take the first shift? Harper says, her eyes still locked up in the trees. Caroline and Dink can go next, then I'll go, then Guy and Titus, and finally Tella. Harper tears her eyes away from the jungle and looks back and forth between Guy and Titus. We take shifts when we sleep, looking out for any predators and insect hordes. She glances at Titus, and stray pandoras. Titus doesn't acknowledge her remark. He just lies back and folds his thick arms beneath his head. Even though he looks about 18, his enormous frame makes him appear much older. But right now, lying in the dirt like the rest of us, he doesn't seem very menacing. I watch as Guy stands up, dusts himself off, and searches for a place to sleep. I'm not sure why. There's no magical spot that feels better than the rest. My heart picks up when he moves closer to where I'm sitting. He inspects the area only 3 feet away, kicking at rocks and pulling up stray vines. Then he sits back down. His eyes flick in my direction, and a chill races over my arms. He nods his head, lies down, and closes his eyes. Did he move next to me on purpose? Is he offering his protection? Or am I his first target? I'm in the epicenter of hell, and I'm trying to psychoanalyze some guy. Pathetic. Shaking my head, I lean over and try to find a comfortable position to sleep. Right as I'm about to drift off, I hear Caroline's voice. I just don't like that there aren't any rules, she says. There should be rules. No one responds. I know that she's talking about the race. I'm sure everyone does. We just don't know what to say. And that was chapter 17. They're sitting around this campfire, and everybody is basically revealing why they're here, who they're trying to save, giving some fun facts about them, and they are talking about the race, and nobody really likes it that much, and for good reason. And they're getting restless. I mean, they only have about 9 days left to go until this leg of the race is over, so they're picking up the pace a little bit, and they're almost at base camp, sort of, without giving away too much. And yeah, I think that's a good place to stop. We read a good number of pages there. We read from chapter 15 through chapter 17, so we read 3 good chapters. I think this leg of the race ends in chapter. Hold on, let me look ahead there. It's chapter 20, 21. Okay, yeah, they reach base camp in chapter 21, so we have a few chapters left to in this section. So yeah, I think we can stop there. I like this section. It is a little bit dry and a little boring, but it still contributes to the overall picture of the story, how everybody's here for a reason, and nobody really wants to be here, but they are out of, as Tella said, the goodness of their own hearts, and they're all trying to be as selfless as they can. And it's a good story. I enjoy it a lot. So if you want to stick around until the next episode, I encourage you to do so. And you can find out what happens next in chapters 18 through 21. After that we have close to 200 more pages. The book ends on page 305, so we have a little while. So all right. So again, I appreciate you guys sticking around for the duration of this episode. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you next time. All right, take care, guys.